There we go. We're live here too. Well, there you go.
Yeah, we are.
So tonight's the night of the debate, which I thought he being Trump already had the debate.
Yeah, this is a new debate.
A month and a half ago, right?
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, whew, it's like the Super Bowl tonight. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out.
Did ABC get a coup or what financially on this deal? Because this is what was floating around the internet today. I have no verification, but I read on the internet that they charged a flat fee for other networks to rebroadcast this night. And
really?
Like 14 mil each. That's what I read. I have no way of verifying that's right. It could be wrong, but they stand, if it's right, they stand to gain 14 mil per network who simulcasts it.
So the simulcasting probably two or three.
I would say CNN, MSNBC, Fox. I would definitely think probably NBC.
Yeah,
right.
I also saw something.
CBS.
Yesterday it said they looked at it. ABC has given 100% positive coverage to Harris.
Of course.
And
of course.
Was it like almost like 60% negative coverage? I don't know the exact number. It was 100% was her. There was no negative coverage of her. Nothing negative said of anyone on ABC.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's gonna be some biased moderators.
I just tonight. Was like I know Fox is in the bag for conservatives, and I think they have never made really any compunction about that.
Yeah,
they're fair and balanced. They say in that they try to get commentators, or they try to get the other opinion on there as well.
Yeah,
and generally I think they kind of do that. I mean, probably not all the time, of course, but the idea that CNN is impartial is blasphemy.
Foolish.
Oh, yes. You can go to their website right now as we're filming this, and it's all pro Harris and anti-Trump down the columns.
Oh yeah,
it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's.
And I'm good with it. Just don't lie to me.
Yeah, just be what you are.
Yeah, at least MSNBC, they're
what you're getting with them.
Yeah, they're radical 24/7.
Yeah,
and they 100%. Make no bones about that. That's that. They don't have much of an audience, but that little niche that they have that lives that way, keeps them afloat, I guess. Or NBC underwrites it, or Microsoft underwrites it, or whatever.
I have no idea how that works.
But CNN is not this impartial center.
No, they're not
at all.
They used to be, but they're not anymore.
Oh, you think they were?
I mean, I think their intention was to be that, and I remember when I was in law school watching them, like during the war. Like I felt like it was impartial,
or they hit it well.
Yeah,
or they hit it better.
Exactly. But I mean, now it's just, part of me doesn't even want to watch debates. I just want to stay out of all this shit. But it's also, I feel like it's going to be such a train wreck that I have to watch it. It has the potential. It should be a train wreck. So
it has the potential.
I have to watch it just because I'm human, and we need to see things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it all.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this: we talked so much on this show because this show existed before the pandemic, and after the pandemic, So much of what we talked about is like the differences between that. Do you think that? Do you think that the ratings will be what it is because since the pandemic, we're living in even a different society now?
Oh yeah, yes.
Like Tiger King, I think was this weird thing that we used it to get through the pandemic initially, but I think it's more of a. I think that show is like a benchmark to a degree. I think that we shaped our viewing, or maybe our disillusionment with reality.
Yeah.
Kind of starting with that goofy show.
Yeah, that's a good it's a good measurement stick in time, because that was, we all joke like, we couldn't look away. We'll never get that time back, but we all watched it. We all did. And if you say you didn't watch it, you definitely watched it.
I watched
it.
I watched it the second time through, like 2-3 weeks later when they played it all again. Because I had to out of curiosity at that point.
Purely out of curiosity. So I think people are now, again, more curious now because we don't know what's real.
Right.
Like I was listening to, I think it was Joe Rogan's podcast. They were talking about like Rick Rubin, and I want to read his book.
Yeah,
I heard
yeah.
I heard his new book's really good. But they were talking about how he's a very grounded individual.
He's cerebral.
Yeah, and they said he loves pro wrestling because he knows it's fake. And just in like, it was a statement made, but I remember thinking that through, and I'm like, yeah, like there's no questioning of it. Like, you know exactly what it is. It's very hard to find that these days. Even pro sports, like it's hard to really think, are they really playing, or are some people dogging it, or they're not that it's scripted, but I think there is some level of fantasy to pro sports.
We view pro sports very similar to how we view politics / reality today.
Yeah.
With an uncertainty. Whereas when you go to a movie, you're certain that is a movie that was constructed to take you into a fantasy.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling, you know, it was constructed to take you into a fantasy, to
There's
actually leave
there.
reality.
Yes.
Intentionally.
Yes.
Not to watch something and wonder if it's reality or not.
Right. It gives you certainty. That's what I say. Like it truly gives you certainty. And that's what I love about it, because
we could probably crave it as humans. We don't get much anymore.
No, I mean, there's really not much certainty in life when you think about it. And the older I get, the more I realize that you have to embrace the uncertainty.
Is that Is that a result of our increasing technology primarily?
Well, yeah. I think technology. I mean, just AI alone, it has played.
I wasn't even thinking about it. Yeah, I was just thinking the progression of how we got.
Well, yeah, but I mean, where we are now, it's like, we just live in uncertainty because you don't know what's coming, you don't know what's next, and I think if you can get very comfortable living in that, life gets easy to navigate. Like, I've just gotten very comfortable with, like, not one day of my life is ever certain. I have no idea what's coming at me from the moment I wake up to the moment my eyes close. I'm done for the day. Like, there's really not much certainty.
But haven't we always been living that way? But if that's the case, why are we so more in tune with that now?
Well, I mean, do I think we've always lived like that? I think
life's just uncertain in general.
There's elements of life that are uncertain. I think now it just becomes more apparent because, look, 30 years ago when we didn't have technology, people had their lifestyles were pretty routine, right? You kind of knew you'd get up, you'd go to work, you'd come home, you kind of had the same thing. Now it's like, because of technology, information comes to us quicker, news comes to us quicker, we hear about things faster. Like, prior to the internet and prior to having email, you'd go to your job, you'd work all day, you'd come home, you'd read the newspaper, then you'd figure out what's going on. So you had 8 hours of your day. It was pretty certain. Like, you knew what you were doing in that 8 hours.
Agreed.
Now it's like, I go into my office in the morning and I have 1,000 notifications on 1,000 different things. And I have no idea what any of them are. It's complete uncertainty. Like, if I look at my phone right now, I probably have 40,000 unread emails.
Yeah.
Like, red notifications everywhere. That's uncertainty.
Well, the world is either more volatile now, or the view into that volatility is more apparent to us now. One of the two.
I think it's probably a little bit of both, honestly. I just think we are,
because the speed of life.
I mean, think about how fast life is now. Like, think about how fast life is, two, how quick things progress. Like, AI a year ago, right? ChatGPT came out, right? And that was like this game changer. I just started using this new thing this week where it literally gives you, for like $600 for the year, 12 employees that all do different things like customer support, email marketing, SEO, all based on AI. And I've been using it for 3 days. It's already saved me 10 hours of my time. So it's paid for itself and then some.
I believe it.
And this is just a system that asks me questions about myself and my business, understands it. Every day it asks more questions. The brain gets smarter. Then it starts spitting out tasks. It's like, hey, we should, it literally just rewrote the about page on our website. Just because it was like, hey, we think we should do this. We think we can make it better. I said, go ahead, let me see what you got. And it was way better than what I did. Like, and that was something I've been using for 2-3 days.
Wow.
Like, that's how fast life is moving, and people don't, like, professionals don't understand. Like, if you are not good at your job or you are not showing value to a company, you can be replaced with literally this software was $600 for the year.
Yeah.
And it has literally these it's like a data analyst, business development, customer service, virtual assistant, SEO specialist, social media manager, copywriter, email marketing. So all of this stuff can be done in this, and the more input you put in about your business,
It learns.
the smarter it gets.
Yeah, it learns.
So that's the thing. Like, that's what's happening in the world. If you're not awake and looking at it, you're going to be replaced so fast.
So I use Audible a lot. Books on recording, and I just recently purchased and listened to the first book ever that I was aware of in my, in the demographic that I read. That was an AI voice. This is the first one.
Yeah.
And I went in there with a healthy amount of skepticism, critically. I went in to listen to it critically. I have to tell you, it wasn't perfect. The inflection on some of the sentences wasn't spot on, but I will tell you, it was much better than my expectations. And there's an example of like a year, 2 years from now, why would a human narrator be needed?
Right. Exactly. And this is how fast life is moving, and people don't understand. And if you know how to utilize the technology, like, think about that. If I ran like an e-commerce business and I hired all these virtual assistants, but then I find this software that can literally do the same stuff. I was paying each virtual assistant, say they were offshore virtuals. I was paying each of them $500 a month, right? So I was paying $6,000 a month for 12 employees. I just replaced them for $600 for the year. And in this technology gets smarter every day. It asks you 10 new questions every day.
Yeah.
It has like 12 new ideas every day. And it's like, holy shit. Like, I had no idea what to think about this.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, create me, TikTok scripts for some potential videos with legal tips. It gave me a bunch of ideas. I said, can you make these scripts 60 to 90 seconds long? Boom. It wrote like that.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much uncertainty.
But once these AIs are exposed to multitudes of potentiality, and they rectify those, they resolve those, and they're in there, then any potential scenario they're going to encounter, whether it's a customer service application, whatever, they're going to have an answer that makes sense and makes the human on the other end feel like they're dealing with a human. We're there. We're right there.
We're on the cusp of that, man. And that's why I said, if you do not get comfortable living in uncertainty, you're not looking close enough. Because if you are any one of those types of positions, right, like a copywriter or someone that does like e-commerce or email marketing, and you're getting paid by a company to do that, this software can replace you quick. So that means as an individual, you have to learn to bring value.
Of course.
Because if you come to an employer and keep coming up with ideas and moving the needle, they're not going to look at the AI. Really, they may look to use it to help you to augment your position.
Course. Yeah.
But if you're not doing certain things, and a business owner takes this AI and says, "Well, wait a minute,
1,000,000%.
Like, why am I paying someone $60,000 a year?
1,000,000%.
When I can do it a little bit of my time for $1,000 a year? I just save myself $59,000.
Yeah,
like that's reality right now.
Well, I look at like the industry that I'm just recently in, like terrestrial radio. And to a degree that it's an industry that's slowly ebbing away or trying to find its last footing and how it's relevance. It is. There's no question because of a generational.
Yeah,
it's technology, but it's also generational. Like the younger generations, our kids, they view radio much differently than you and I did growing up. The point being, that's an industry where I can see, some of the remedial things in a radio broadcast throughout the day. That's perfect for AI at some point in time. Weather, sports reports, things like that. The talk show element, the creative is still like, you need that human there, but the other aspects of surrounding that hour.
Yeah.
Could definitely be done with the AI.
I mean, I always say AI will not replace you if you're good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're average, you can be replaced very easily.
Yeah. The uniqueness and the creativity and
Yeah.
the forward thinking.
Yeah.
If that's there in the employee, that's a value.
Yeah.
That's the only thing left that the human can deliver.
That's exactly right. That's
Right?
exactly that is exactly right.
Because everything else can be artificially created and manipulated and used.
In work ethic, that's the other thing too. Like AI will do what you tell it to do, but it's not going to just keep working for you. If you're an employee and you bring those two things you said, and an above average work ethic, meaning you'll go above and beyond. You're not running out the door at 5 o'clock like the building's on fire, and you're actually doing what needs to be done when required. And you bring creativity and some forward thinking to the table. Yeah, you'll be utilized by that company. But if you don't bring those things, you can be replaced instantaneously.
Do you think that the intuitive nature of the human versus the intuitive nature of the computer, do you think they're going to eventually mirror each other?
I mean, I think the computers may get better. That's the scary part. Because just some of the software I played around with, like how smart it gets, how fast, like in what it's anticipating. Like there's a certain level of human intuition that the computer will never be able to replace.
Are you sure about that?
I am, because I think intuition is a feeling, right? Computers can't feel. They can make assessments, they can replicate, they can replicate it. They can't actually do it, right?
Organically.
So there is an intuition I have when I'm around people. When I'm in a room with someone, I have a good intuition with people that a computer can't replace. Now I can teach it certain things I look for, right? If I was trying to train AI to do something, I can say, well, here are the things I look for when this intuition comes to me. This is typically what's going on in the room.
Okay.
So it may look for inputs and say, okay, I've noticed these 10 inputs that you said in most situations means X. My intuition is now telling me this means X. But it's really just using inputs I've given it. It's not the feeling. I've told them when I have this feeling, these are the data points that are around when I'm having that feeling.
Yeah, I get that. It's more so. I view it very differently, but not from an educated standpoint. I view AI from a guttural standpoint, where I view the entire thing not based on effectiveness, because I know what computers can do, and I know what computer learning can do. I get all of that conceptually, but I view fake. I break it down into fake and real.
Sure.
And fake's probably a harsh word to use for AI, but I break it down to its most elemental point.
Okay.
But what I've come to believe, especially in 2024, based upon definitely the last 4 years, but the last 6-8 years, with reality right now, a lot of society is okay with fake. I don't even think a good portion of society views the word fake with any kind of consternation or negativity. I think we've accepted the concept now of real and not real, and we just kind of shake our shoulders and just roll right along. Whereas prior times, that was unacceptable.
Yeah, fake was a bad word, basically.
Exactly right.
Now it's just like it's the opposite of real. There's no real connotation to it. It's just the opposite of real.
Yeah, there's less emotion attached to it.
It's just an objective reality.
We almost expect it.
Yeah, I think so. And that's weird that we're in that space in this world, because I think, again, when you look at things, when the people claim to be fake, right? It's a person's way of, putting out a perception, right? You see all these fake influencers and these fake people. It's not that it's like fake meaning it's not happening. It's not the accurate depiction of reality.
It's not authentic.
Right. And that's the thing. And so I think people don't have that negative connotation with fake anymore, because they're saying, well, that just means it's not authentic. They think everybody fakes it to some level.
So
right?
the definition is changing?
I do. I really do. Because I think
it's healthy.
No. I think a lot of the shit that's going on is not healthy. There's a lot of shit happening in society that's not healthy. But I think it's also something that I think society has to go through, almost like a cleansing. You kind of got to get to
What do you mean?
Like I think a lot of the shit we go through in society, like even over the past couple of years, it's almost like this. Not for everybody, but it is a cleansing for certain people, right? You start looking at the world once you go through all this uncertainty, and you start just accepting things differently. It's almost like it forces you to take a step back and determine what really matters and what's really important. And it's almost you cleanse yourself of the bullshit. At least I know that's what I've done over the past couple of years. I've almost had this cleansing of like the shit that doesn't really matter. Like, why am I focused on this? Like, why am I focused on all these other uncertainties and all these things happening in the world when it's really, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm going. I think that had to happen because I think we were, through the pandemic and even the past couple of years, we've just been very almost like treading water as a society. Like, weren't making any progress. So I think progress is starting to happen because I think people are starting to take a step back and say, okay, this was a lot of bullshit. And now let's see, how do we move forward? That's what I think's happening. That's what I mean by cleansing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not treading water anymore. We're actually moving in a direction.
Is it like, do you think we're going through some kind of awakening, or do you, well, I mean, awakening, I think is a kind of a odd word to use, but it's almost like we've been in a haze just for a couple of years. And I think we're starting to snap back to reality now.
I think there, and I do like the word awakening, because I think it can be taken a lot of different ways. Right? I think there is this awakening to the fact of what matters. I think there is a spiritual awakening happening in this country. I think there's an emotional awakening. I think there's a common sense awakening that's coming as well. I think people have just, because you see all these companies now getting rid of the initiatives they had in place before, because they're like, not that the initiatives were bad, it's just
but they weren't based in reality.
They weren't based in reality. They were based on purely just these
whims.
Things. Yeah,
like whims.
Just put the best people in place.
Yeah, we kind of lost our mind there for a couple of years. Yeah. You've been saying this for a long time.
Lost our mind.
Yeah, and you think back at that though. Yeah. You have, it's like, yes, collectively, it would be safe to say, if you look at it, 1,000-mile view in, we probably lost our mind, and it's like a big social experiment. You shut down the world for a couple months and see what they do.
I mean,
and this is what came out of it.
Yeah.
Crime isn't crime. More police won't reduce crime. Just take that element alone, right? That
in and of itself.
And then the little arteries of like things that spurned from that.
Yeah.
Some movement, some kind of raising, in some instances, raising awareness of certain things that probably need aware of. But it's like the gender twisting and manipulation and all this stuff. It's just turning the world on its head. Yeah, in certain ways, and then seeing how they react. It's almost like we were like orchestrated. Like, it almost gives you the feeling that it was orchestrated, and we were disrupted, and then we were used for an observation almost.
Yeah, yes. And to the crime piece, like, that's the part that blows my mind the most, where we are. Like, because I remember growing up, like, the police were there to protect, right, and eliminate crime. And if they saw crime, they did something. I still
believe they're there for that,
right? I was talking to a gentleman earlier today, and we were talking about Austin, Texas, because I'm going there in a couple weeks for a conference. And then he was saying, like, Austin, he's like, last time he was there, he's like, there's like a bunch of homeless tents, and he's like, and there's cops right outside. They say, hey, don't walk in the tents because they'll rob you, and we're not going to do anything about it. So they're like, hey, we know these people are going to commit a crime if you walk there, and we're not going to do anything about it. Like, to me, that just blows my mind that can even be said to the general public.
Okay, great point. So let me give you a question that I have posed on this podcast. Never to you, I don't believe, but I've always had a unique opinion of something, and it's for perfect timing. Going to require you to dispel reality for a moment. But is it necessary that crime exists or is tolerated anywhere in our society? Why should you not be able to walk down, I don't know, the center of the most tough neighborhood in the world at 2:30 in the morning, no gun, no self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you feel any different at that moment than you do walking through Moon Township on a Sunday afternoon?
Okay, you should.
Why do we tolerate those differences as a society? Why do we bend to the concept that there's bad areas and good areas, and there's good times of day to be out and bad times of day to be out? And why is any crime, a physical crime like that, tolerated? And do we as a people, do we have the mechanism in place to stomp that out if we really wanted to?
Okay, so there's a bunch of questions in there, the way I look at it. So tolerated is, I don't know that that's the right word. I think it's, crime is just, there are evil people, and we're never going to be able to eliminate evil people. People are always going to commit crimes, right? Like, that's the whole gun debate, I believe. They say, okay, if they want to commit a crime, they're still going to commit a crime.
Well, they'll use a butter knife if they want to.
Right. Like, that's the thing. It doesn't stop killing. It stops killing with a gun if they can't get access to it. But a criminal is still a criminal. They're still going to do what they want to do. If they want to kill somebody, they're going to do that. They're going to find a way, right? So there's that. And I think this is tough because when you say, like, why do we tolerate different areas are good, different areas are bad? It's like, we're historically looking at objective data. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, we say this area is bad because historically crime has been committed in this area over this area.
So why don't we fix that problem?
Well, I mean, how do you fix it?
Oh, I think there's probably lots of ways, but it requires a lot of money and a lot of different kind of policing. But if we really wanted if we really wanted it to be crime free, we're Americans, we're humans. We could do this. We could enact. We could enact. I don't know if it's even. We wouldn't even need laws. Just appropriate enough policing to go in there and shut down. It's insane to me in 2024, and this is how I felt for a long time. And it's a tough argument to have, but why is any place in this country crime ridden? Why is any place in this country unsafe at any time of day or night? Why? Why is that? Why do we tolerate that as society? And I'm only talking about the United States. I'm not talking about other countries. We have the ability to stop that.
Well, we say that, but we're not. So we don't have the ability.
Well, not completely. But I mean,
but think about it this way. So let's break this down a little bit. One, the federal government is, there's a states right and federal rights question there, right? We send a lot of money overseas, which we shouldn't. We should be spending all the money at home. Two, if you take areas that are high crime areas, you may not have enough people wanting to be police in those areas. That's why there's high crime, right? Are you going to get the guy who's a policeman in the Hamptons to say, I want to move to Compton because there's more crime there, I want to help out? Unless you're paying him 5 times the amount of money, probably not. So the high crime area probably has a harder time getting police to actually help solve the problem. I mean, think about that.
I think you're right, but I would my counter would be that it goes back to my original point that we are okay with it. Then we are okay with knowing that certain places are not advisable for someone to go. We're in society. We are okay.
Well, I don't think we're okay. It's just you and I can't do anything about it. I'm not like okay. This is this is
well,
great.
We tolerate it. When I say okay, we're willing to tolerate that as normal business operandi. We just go about our day. We know that these neighborhoods are rougher, and the potentiality for something to happen to you is greater here than it is here. I think that in America is insane.
But we tolerate a lot of things until it impacts us. Like you think about that. Like we tolerate that because we don't live in those areas. Now, if you and I lived in those areas, maybe our viewpoint would be different, right? Because we're speaking from a perspective of neither one of us really live in a high crime area. Let's be realistic,
right?
So we don't know, and I think that comes down to a lot of things. Like we say we will tolerate things in America because if it doesn't impact me, I'm not really thinking about it.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's what I mean. But they're all intertwined.
Of selfishness with humans.
It's all intertwined. It's very hard for me because then you're saying human beings have to be altruistic by nature, which we're not. We're egocentric by nature. right? We have slivers of altruism in ourselves, and some people more than others, and are willing to do that and do for the greater good. However, human nature, we're egocentric. So if it doesn't impact my day-to-day life, yeah, I would love to help, but I don't know how to do that. And I'm not really thinking about it every day until it starts impacting my life.
Okay.
That's anything. Think about anything negative in the world, right? I don't care about global warming or climate change. I don't know enough about it.
Understood.
But if I realize that, okay, like I live in a place that's supposed to snow, 4 months out of the year, and it's 80 degrees, something major is happening, and now shit is going weird. I'm going to start caring about it and looking into it more because it's now impacting me. And I think that's just how life works. I don't think it's just America. I think it's everywhere. We tolerate things that don't affect us.
True.
Then
do you think that we have it within us, though, in this country? Do you think if we wanted to stomp out all crime, we could? Violent crime. I'm not talking about white collar. I'm talking about
but define stomp out.
Violent crime. You can't. I mean, if someone wants to do something, you can't stop them. But you would think a society over time would learn from the consequences of others who attempt something and are punished for it. Now, that's the whole argument of capital punishment. Does capital punishment stop violent crime?
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't. But and that's even a deeper conversation. Why doesn't it? Because logic would tell you it probably should learn behavior, the whole bit.
But there's also the mental health argument when it comes to criminals. Are criminals mentally wired the same way?
It's a good point.
As non-criminals, right? They're not wired the same way potentially, and they're going to commit the crime. They're not going to have the same thought process we do of like, oh shit, that's a consequence of me doing this. I better not do this. Most criminals think they're invincible.
Do you remember a movie that Tom Cruise was in? I think it was called Minority Report.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Where they were predicting crime.
Yeah.
And they were arresting people before. That's not the dystopian future I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is that we seem to tolerate a certain level of violent crime in this country.
Yeah,
we do. We'd rather spend more money on other things with our tax dollars than more policing, which to me, and I've always felt this way, is absolutely insane.
And I agree with that. Look, I think the government's money should be spent at home, taking care of veterans, taking care of children, taking care of the homeless, taking care of lower income. Like we shouldn't be spending a dime outside this country until our problems are fixed.
We have spent over, I don't know how many billions now, but the number is not millions, billions in Ukraine.
Right. Why?
Billions. And like you said, from day one, 95% of Americans could not hold including myself, a detailed intellectual conversation on the history of the war between Russia and Ukraine.
No, 95% of them couldn't point out Ukraine on a map. I don't even know if I could. If it's not labeled, I don't know it's near Russia. I don't know what side. I didn't have geography when I was in high school. Stop teaching it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But we're spending all this money. What like I said, what infuriates me the most is when I see people in this country hurting, especially veterans and especially kids. Like veterans and they put their life on the line for us, right? So they should always be taken care of. And then children, they can't help themselves. So we should be helping them. There should not be a hungry or homeless child in this country. There should not be a veteran that is not getting the best care in the world in this country. And the fact we're spending billions of dollars outside this country is absolute and utter bullshit. And that's the frustrating part. So, do we tolerate things we shouldn't? Yeah, probably. But
so on that premise of what you just said, because I fully agree with you, and I think most people, rational people, would.
Yeah.
What happens when these politicians go to Washington? And let's say a lot of them have this mindset. We're going to take care of our own. We're going to do this. Yeah. These major initiatives to redirect money back home. What happens where it just from year to year to year to year, it just doesn't get fixed?
Do I know why? Do you know my reasoning?
Of course.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you are now in a position of power, if you solve the problems, you are no longer needed. So I think a lot of these politicians don't solve the problems because they want to preserve their power. Because truly think about that. Like, take a step back, not from dystopian or utopian standpoint, but if politicians all did what they said they were going to do, and the problems in this country were fixed, and the system was built as kind of a self-sustaining, self-governing system, we don't need them anymore. And despite my belief, politicians on both sides of the aisle, they're egotistical, they're somewhat narcissistic. You have to be a politician. And once they get that taste of power, it's hard to let it go. And the only way to keep that power is to keep having problems to solve.
Or the illusion of a problem.
Right. That's why there's a constant battle between party and party. One party takes over, then one party takes over. It's almost like a concerted effort in my mind.
Like it's choreographed.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, when you have politicians have been in government for 30, 40 years and have built wealth that most people will never see in their life, they're supposed to be a public servant. You're not serving the public by getting wealthy in politics. You serve the public by coming in, making change, making the country better, and getting out of the way for the next generation to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what should be happening, and it's not. And I think it's truly about preservation of power.
Because of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, money definitely is a big influence on that. I mean, think about all the companies that are in the defense world, in the healthcare world. They're, because if you look at healthcare, right, there are many natural fixes. There's many preventative things a human being can do to not need medicine.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that. We have a pill that can fix it. And then when you get good things out there, the FDA gets rid of them, like peptides, right? Like peptides are these miracle drugs, right? That heal injuries, that can rebuild cartilage, but they're cheap to make, and no one makes a bunch of money off of them, and anybody can do it. So the FDA is like, we're going to pull those off. The ones that work, we're going to pull them off the market. They're not tested. Well, they work because everybody's using them, and they've helped people, they've healed people. But the FDA pulls them off the market because there's not enough money in it. Lobbyists. That's what happens in this country.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see where the average person gets a taste of like being exposed to all the bullshit going on, and they tune out. And that's like, and to circle back around again. So do you think the audience tonight, just looking at the audience, the total audience of Americans watching this tonight, or even listening to it?
Sure.
Do you think most are there for the entertainment value? Or do you think they're looking to really hear something that will make them decide which way to vote?
I think, I don't think that. I think if you take 100%, I think 30% are there for the shit show. Okay, so at least 70% left. 30% are there to, I want to know what these two are about. I'm going to make a decision.
You think 30%?
I'm being generous, but we'll say that. And then
okay.
The 40% left, I just want to hear my side. I want to hear my side support what I believe.
I think that's most of them.
I mean, that may be
most. 40 is most of that equation you gave, but I really believe.
I mean, maybe it's 60%, 2020.
Yeah, I really think most people are looking for belief validation.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And this is another anchor of that.
Yeah, original thoughts gone. Like we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like people aren't, and again, and I used to be that way, right? I used to want my beliefs validated, but now I try and take a step back and I say, what is best for the country? What is best for my situation? What is best for my business and my employees and my family? Like, who's the best candidate for that?
Yeah. Now, so let's talk about that for a second. So during the pandemic, you and I did some podcasts right early on. I remember being moved by one of our conversations, and I said, the one thing I say is I look to get an even-handed opinion of things, and we all had time on our hands. We're laying around the house watching TV.
Yep.
So I said, look, I'm watching CNN, I'm watching Fox, and I'm listening to different things, but really, I'm leaving MSNBC out. So I really need to include them, I think, with the overall. So I really have an understanding of all sides.
Okay.
But I have to tell you, it's a human experience, I think, that when we hear and see things that are so diabolically against our belief structure, we don't yearn to do a deep dive. Take a
nope.
I challenge you to do this, and it's a challenge. I got a very good friend of mine who's been a staunch conservative his whole life, going back to when we in the 80s, when we were like young adults dating ourselves. When Bill Clinton's book came out, 2000, 2001 or whatever, I saw it on his coffee table and I was like, what the hell is this doing here?
Yeah.
And he goes, aren't you curious how that mind works? Aren't you curious about that story? And I remember having that little epiphany, like, wow, Eric, you are so closed-minded. Are you afraid of hearing something different against your own beliefs? It was a moment for me. But I learned at that moment, like, I have to be able to open myself up. And I did this during the pandemic. But conversely, when I went on MSNBC and they were talking about all the gender issues and just the anti-police, it was so gutturally offensive to me that it was hard to sit through it.
Yeah, I understand that.
I admit it.
Yeah.
It was hard.
I'm the same way because, look, I believe in being curious, right? Like, I live curiously. I always ask questions to the point where some people think I'm criticizing. I'm like, I'm just curious. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah,
I want more information.
I get that.
But yes, there were things like that. It's just like, what, with, like, I get what you're saying. Like, I get, like, there are certain things that just make no sense.
Yeah. It's like, and the only analogy I can use for me is similar to the music analogy. Like, I think I got a pretty wide palette, but like deathcore and death metal and gore metal and all that stuff, it's like that far extreme is just so distasteful. I don't want to spend time ingesting it. Do you know what I mean? Or conversely, all way on the other side, like K-pop, Korean pop, and all that stuff. It's just so. It's not even distasteful. It's just nonsense to me.
Yeah,
but I don't want to ingest it because it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And that's kind of how I feel with news sources or sources of information. I have to be careful of where I go.
I agree completely because again, like, I believe in. Again, the older I get, the more I've realized that my brain only has so much space in it, and I can either fill it with positive shit or negative shit.
That's exactly right.
So I try and fill it up with as much positive shit as possible because the moment I let negativity in, something positive has to go out.
Exactly right.
So I just try and say, like, what I'm curious, so I will watch certain things, but I a lot less news than I used to.
Yeah, because
to me, like, if it's important, I'll hear about it. But I truly try and surround myself with and fill my brain with positive thoughts,
of course,
and that helps tremendously because when you look at some of that stuff, you're like, what the and then your brain goes down this rabbit hole of
it's actually dangerous.
How did we get here?
It's actually dangerous.
It is. Like, I get that, that point with a lot of issues out there. I'm like, how do we get here as a country? Like, it makes no sense. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay, positive vibes only, just stay above the fray. And
and that takes work.
It does.
And it takes work to the point where I don't think a lot of people want to invest the effort to do it.
No, because people are always, people like controversy. They like to complain. Negativity is comfortable for them. Like that, I think
it's become the norm.
That's what I mean. Like it's about your point. I think negativity has become the certainty. It has become the comfort. Positivity is.
I hope you're wrong.
But think about it.
I don't think you are, but I hope you're wrong. If negativity has become the certainty.
Observe people take the next week. Observe people. How many people do you observe complaining compared to praising someone or being grateful for someone? Like, just over the next week, just watch people in your life, that your work, friends, family. How many people complaining to being grateful or encouraging someone else? I guarantee you'll see more complaining than the others.
Yeah.
I've been observing that in my own life, and it's like, holy shit, I didn't realize like how much of that is around.
Yeah, and it's like, that's a good point.
And there's so much you don't even recognize it anymore. You don't even recognize when it's happening until you take a step back. And I had to because Matt read this book, The No Complaining Rule, which I just read. It's a great book, and but it made me think about a lot of things and kind of stuff I've observed over the past couple of weeks. It's like the default is to complain. And it's in the way the book talks about it's like mindless complaining or constructive complaining. Like mindless complaining is complaining to coworkers or people that can't do anything about it. You're just dumping your negativity on them.
That's the bulk of most human communication.
Right. But we're all going to complain, right? So they said just flip it to constructive complaining. Complain to someone who can help and bring a solution to the table.
Correct.
And I'm like, yes, because you're going to complain about stuff. We get that's human nature, but also practice gratitude. Be grateful for things.
For sure.
But people forget about that because our default has now become negative.
Yeah, but I will tell you, I've made so many personal strides in that through age.
Yeah.
Like, the joke is that so I go in very early in the morning for this radio gig, and I'm in there by myself. I'm playing music. I mean, because in my simplistic way of looking at this, I go someplace, I talk on the radio and play the music I dig, and they pay me. I mean, so cool. On the basic, it's just the basic thing.
Yeah.
Not the complexity of the in and out stuff, just that basic principle. What the hell do I have to be upset about? Yeah. So I love music. I'm enjoying music. I'm just dancing around the studio, having a good time, heads bobbing, and that's the joke of the studio. It's like, Eric's having too much fun. Something must be wrong. Like
you're just enjoying it.
Yeah. And it's probably for the first time in my life, because we talked in detail, like during the guitar years, I didn't stop and smell the roses, but now it's like I am grateful, and I say this all the time, grateful for the opportunity to do something that I always thought would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know if I had that mentality 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I couldn't get there. Maybe I wanted to get there, but I couldn't get there.
It's hard. I mean, I struggle with that still to this day. Like there are many days where I get, because again, we're growing. There's a lot of people now. We're restructuring things, and it gets frustrating some days. But there are other days where I have to just stop and say, you know what? I have to be grateful. Like, I created this out of thin air, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And did I expect it to be easy? No, I knew it was going to be hard. I'm just living what I hoped I would live into 5 years ago.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm just living it now. And it's like,
I get that.
When I think about it that way, it's like I'm grateful for the opportunity. But there are still days where I'm just like, I'm going to burn this building down.
Do you have to intentionally stop yourself and take a couple of steps back to find the gratefulness?
Yes, 100%.
To acknowledge, like personally acknowledge it, so it engulfs you.
Yes, because I don't think I do anything special. I don't think I've done anything special. I just think I'm normal. So I've always struggled with stopping and pausing for a moment, because I'm always running hard. Yeah. Like I'm running hard. I'm getting to the next thing. I'm trying to solve the next problem. And I always say, like, I didn't really do anything special. I just worked hard. So I don't think I've done anything significant. Yeah. So I have to stop and take a step back and say, wait a minute, I did do something, and we are creating something. And, and I did bring the right people in, but I have to mentally, and cognitively and consciously stop myself every once in a while and take a step back and just look around and pause. Yeah. It's hard.
So, not only is it hard, but it can almost be a skill that some people may never get. I mean, like, I went through the entire years of Boogie Street, the entire years from the inception to the end, never doing that one time. As a matter of fact, I think because of the imposter syndrome that we talk about often, I never felt like an entrepreneur. I never stopped to take a look at, wow, you have lived by the income of your own means for like a 15-year period. Yeah. That's something. That's entrepreneurship. But I never thought like that. It wasn't until I became a realtor. Yeah. And in my first year, I'm like, wait, I really am an entrepreneur. I shifted from this entrepreneurial venture to this now. And I'm still a 1099. I'm a 1099 person. I'm a contractor. So that's entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I think the realty part of my life, vastly different than the guitar sales. Yeah. And not as sexy as the guitar sales. But the realty part of my life was much more fulfilling to me. because I understood the prior accomplishments and I understood what it took to continue to do that. And it was a feeling of achievement. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I get that completely. Because again, that's something that I struggle with, like looking back and having that sense of achievement. Because I think I let myself get too like I'm so hard on myself and tolerant with others.
You are.
And
that's
no, I am.
Yeah.
I know that. I
Yeah.
live by that Marcus Aurelius quote. You know, be strict with yourself and tolerant with others.
Right.
And sometimes that is to my detriment, because then I get, when I'm too tolerant with people, I let things get to a point where it's like there's going to be a huge course correction.
Do you find that the most difficult of all Aurelius's things? I mean, because I almost think it's bad advice.
Yeah,
and you question the Stoics in terms, because some of the things are just so. But that's always a phrase from Aurelius I've questioned. Is that the best way?
Yeah, it is. So I think overall it is, but I think you have to use it strategically. I think there is a level of tolerance you have to have with people, but you also have to set expectations with people, and you have to push people to their best. And I realize that sometimes I've been too tolerant with people, where I let things kind of just be, and I take the burden. Like, and I just do the work, or I just do the thing, or
that can be dangerous.
It's very dangerous, because you get to a point of exhaustion, right?
Yeah,
like this year has completely exhausted me. I can tell you that. And then you also have to make a huge course correction, and then people go from like,
well, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And then I think I get so frustrated because I see potential in people, and you try and pull it out of them, but they won't let it come out. Or they'll prevent,
or you try to push them into it.
Yeah, and it's just like, and they're constantly just almost like resisting it.
Isn't that the worst though? When you can see the potential in someone, but they can't do it.
Yeah, and it's something you can't.
They can't see it,
right? And they have to see it. Like, I can't make them see it. I see it, and I can just give them tools and support and a pathway. But if they're not willing to see it themselves, and I think that's where I get so frustrated, because I truly, as a leader, like, I believe I'm a servant leader, and I want to make my people better in anything, like, professionally, personally, with my friends. Like, I want everybody I'm surrounded with to just be better. And when I see, people in my life that have so much potential, and I know what they need to do, and I try and help them and tell them, but they're still not doing it, that's where I get frustrated, because like, I don't want anybody to ever look back on life and say, I could have done this, or I missed out on this opportunity, when it's right in front of them.
So it's like a double-edged sword. I speak to the type of person that you are, that you feel that way. It's so genuine, and that speaks to your character. And then at the same time, that mindset will fucking kill you.
Oh, yes, 100%. But I've also, like, again, like, yes, this year has definitely whooped my ass, but I've also learned to take better care of myself. And I've prioritized, like, mental health, physical health, spiritual health.
Just completed a Tough Mudder, I see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My ankle's wrapped right now.
God bless you, man.
both my big toes are about to fall off. I mean,
Gabe did it too.
Yeah, Gabe did it. A couple of my friends. It was fun. Two funny stories. One, I'm the only person that fell on like every big hole in the course. Like, there were just like
naturally
big holes of just, I would just fall in them. Like, people would walk around, boom, gone in a hole. Other part. So this course was tough. At one point in time, we're walking, it was like long stretches through the woods, like uphill. And there was this like one spot where it was like muddy. And I saw people walking through it and getting through it. So I'm like, and I was behind everybody. So I start walking through it, and it's like quicksand. My feet get stuck. And so I like yank my legs out, and both of my shoes are stuck in the mud. So literally, I pull my shoes out of the mud, and they're like full caked with like almost like cement. I had to walk barefoot for at least a mile through the woods uphill until I could get to a water obstacle to get the mud out of my shoes. My feet have been killing me for 2 days.
Wow.
Like, they hurt so bad. Wow. Like, so bad. Just think about walking through the woods, slippery, rocky terrain.
Yeah, I can't.
Slightly uphill for at least a mile, if not more, with no shoes on.
Yeah, no.
I was just like,
and these people do this stuff willingly.
But here's why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I do it, because the guy at the beginning, he like the MC, like this black guy, he's such a charismatic guy, and he talks about the community And what I love about it, he's like, everybody here, he's like, you're all one team. There's no competition. He's like, this is a community. And he's like, you help one another. He's like, you are the leaders. You are the people in this world that chose to do something hard when no one made you do it. And he's
absolutely
like, the country needs more of this. The country needs more community. The country needs more leaders. And it's like this.
I get it.
Just talking, it just like gives you the chills. And it's like, that's why you do it.
Of course.
Because just to do something hard.
Well,
to test yourself.
Need people willing to do the hard things in life.
Correct. And that's where
willingly and joyfully.
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing. Joyfully. Like not begrudgingly. Like, yes, while we're on the course, I'm like, F this, like I'm starving. I was lightheaded at one point where Gabe's like, you're slurring your words, dude. I'm like, I'm not slurring my words. But I was so lightheaded because I ate breakfast at like 7 a.m. We didn't start till 10. And we were like,
you were depleted.
I was and they had one station on the course where you can get a banana. So I had a banana and some water to the point where like Gabe literally thought I was going to pass out. So it was, but then we got done with it. I ate a granola bar and I was fine. But it was definitely a tough one. It was, I'm like,
this your third one?
It was my third. Yeah. We're going to do it again next year. We said it's fun. It's just fun. It's fun because everybody's working together.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. The only problem I hated this year is like, I couldn't do the hanging stuff because my shoulder, and those are the fun obstacles, like climbing up stuff. I couldn't do any of those. But the other ones, like just jumping through mud, climbing over mud, it's fun. But my arms are cut up. My legs are cut up. Both of my big toes are black and they're probably going to fall off. Yeah. Oh yeah. Come on, man.
Wow.
I mean, it's a 15K with like 18 obstacles.
It's 15K.
15K. It's 10 miles. Yeah. Yeah. We did. I think we finished like a little under 3 hours and 30 minutes, like 3:20.
So how much of this you running?
This time. So in the past, right, I felt like the stretches of running or like even walking were shorter because there was more obstacles. At one point in time, I know from mile 4 to mile 6, there was no obstacles. It was just walking or running through the woods. That was probably the longest stretch, like 2.5 miles. There were probably like mile stretches. Like the one I walked uphill barefoot for at least a mile. Yeah. It was, yeah. So we were beat up, man. I was beat up. Definitely. I'm like, oh, my body is.
So my question for you is, next summer, are you going to do the marathon?
So it's funny. We just talked about this. Happy hour. Gabe's like, I can do a half marathon. I said, all right, let's say half marathon. Yeah, I would do it. I would do a half. I don't want to run 26 miles.
Yeah.
I don't like to drive 26 miles. But I would do a half. But I realized like I need to train for it. Like this time, I just said I don't need to train for the Tough Mudder. I just did it and we completed it. But it was definitely
you're feeling next day
because you're using parts of your body you don't normally do. Like when I was first did the Tough Mudder, I trained for it and did like stuff to like prepare your core and the way you move. And I had no problem with it.
Sure.
I didn't have a problem. This time I'm just like, my body hurts right now. Like I want to just go home and cry. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to do that, but my feet are definitely hurting.
This was Sunday or Saturday?
It was Saturday.
Yeah. So you had a couple days to.
Yeah, my feet.
It's always worse like the second or third day.
I mean, I woke up this morning and my ankle was. I had to wrap it. It was throbbing. But you only live once, man.
Still put that dress shoe on.
Yeah, it's on right now. You only live once, brother. I'm gonna keep pushing myself.
That's the attorney, man.
Well, that's just the competitive side of me.
So okay, because we'll wrap up by asking. I'm gonna ask you this question. Okay. What do you think is gonna happen tonight? A little Nostradamus going on here.
What I want to happen and what I think are going to happen are two different things.
Okay.
What I think is going to happen is Trump will not be able to help himself. I think he will find an opening and just attack. Because I think if he sticks to policy and sticks to, you're saying you're going to fix all this shit. You had 4 years to do it and you haven't done anything. I think if he sticks to that,
well, they created some of the problem.
Right. If he sticks to that, he wins. I think he's
she bait him into it.
That's what I think will happen. I think she will bait him into it. And I think that will be her strategy. I don't think she can win on policy. I don't think she can win on a pure debate. I think she will strategically say things that seem like gaffes that'll be to bait him. That's what I think will happen. And part of me thinks he will fall for hook, line, and sinker. Either way,
shame on him.
I'm gonna be watching it. Like it's the Super Bowl, man. It's gonna be fun. I can tell you that.
All right, partner.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Until next week.
Definitely.
Thank y'all. We're back. We
Yes.
took a week off. We had to. We're human. We got lives.
Yeah, shit going on. Definitely.
All right. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you.